welcome to this extraordinary council meeting of the 30th of January 2023. Can I call upon Councillor Gadders to read the civic affirmation?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We, the councillors of the Armidale region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Could I call upon Councillor Witters to do the acknowledgement of country?
Yeah, I do the normal one. I'm going to do something quickly different. We acknowledge as a council the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. And just as a member of this community, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Can I call upon the General Manager to make a statement regarding live streaming?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. And if you haven't already done so, can you please switch your mobile phones to silent? Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. I haven't received any apologies, but I do note that two of our councillors, Councillor Redwood and Councillor McMichael, are attending via Zoom. Disclosures of interest. So having reviewed the agenda, do any of you have any councillors need to declare a conflict of interest other than being the potential to be ratepayers? No. All right, we can move on. Councillors, let's get straight to it. So item 8.1, this is the adoption of the revised delivery program and resourcing strategy. So Council is being asked to adopt the revised planning documents that have been on public exhibition since the ordinary council meeting of December 2022, and to note the formal submissions, the formal public submissions are received during this exhibition period. Councillors, you will recall that during the December meeting that the changes to the planning documents arose as a result of council voting in November 2022 to apply to IPART for a special rate variation. Now, a summary of the changes to those planning documents are provided on pages 250 to 252 of the agenda, and it's these changes and the adoption of what's been on exhibition that we are voting on. So there is a recommendation on the screen. Can I call for a mover? Thank you, Councillor Gadders, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Galletley. Councillor Gadders, anything to say?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to echo the words that you just mentioned in terms of we have had some additional input from the community in terms of submissions. Some of those were new, some of those were repeats of the ones that we'd previously seen. And I'd just also like to obviously thank the staff for putting these updates together. It's a very important part of the process that we need to complete obviously before February. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Galletley.
Yeah, ditto. That's I'd just like to thank staff and I think we all realise what a big job this has really been, and it'll be really good to get this in and get it on the road. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Any other councillors wish to say anything? Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that I'm a little bit concerned about formally putting my name to adopt these plans without a few improvements. And firstly, because community information and consultation was highlighted as a major focus of improvement in our community strategic plans. And if I, for example, as a councillor, find that the asset management plans are overly repetitive and hard to read, I do wonder how the community will feel. And it would be really, really good to put some thought into this issue. I've also heard some comments about some of the statements in these plans. For example, that the council's current long-term financial plan and federal funding does not meet the budget requirements to continue to provide the current levels of service. And that raises the question, with all our claimed improvements in efficiency, why can't we afford our current levels of service? We're not talking about super duper improved services, just what we've had until now. And the big bugbear, as far as we're all concerned, is the roads, because they're in a far worse condition than I've ever seen them before. And logic to me and personal observation tells me that much of the problem relates to extreme weather. So certainly I was delighted, and I'll be really, really interested in the results of the current federal government inquiry into the implications of severe weather events on the national, regional and remote road network. And it was just very interesting to read that the chair of that committee, Mr. Luke Gosling, OAM MP, says that this inquiry will look at road engineering and construction standards to strengthen road resiliency against natural disasters, including the critical role of climate change trends and data to inform infrastructure standards. And the inquiry committee is concerned about the increasing deterioration of the nation's road network, particularly in regional, rural and remote areas. The extreme flooding events and other natural disasters across the nation have impacted many Australians, and the committee is seeking to understand how road planning and construction may be improved to enhance road resiliency in the face of climate and also support our communities. And because that's just what we need, I really hope Council will be making a submission before the closing date of the 28th of February, because we could probably provide some insights into how road planning and construction could be improved by providing decent funds to address the issue and the problems due to global warming and having heavier vehicles on the road. We could also argue, as did Prof. Joseph Drew at the ratepayers meeting, that regional and rural councils aren't getting their fair share of road funding, and that federal and state government should take equal responsibility and partner with local governments so that regional and rural councils aren't disadvantaged because of their many kilometres of roads. And in terms of the delivery programme, I'm also concerned that with ever increasing cost shifting, we can't really afford to meet meaningless financial target ratios, such as our operation performance ratio, which includes now the depreciation of the rural fire service assets. That's assets that we don't maintain and won't have to replace at the end of their useful life. Every single one of us here agreed that that was stupid. So let's make the point by taking it out of our delivery programme. So in summary, for all the above reasons, I personally don't feel I can support the motion in its current form, but I really hope that my suggestions will eventually lead to further improvements down the track. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Connor.
Oh, thanks. Look, I think I'm going to maintain the position I took on the 23rd of November 2022, which is that I think the community response to the consultations indicated that they were willing to look at some service review and some reduction of services. As I understand it, some 70% of the respondents indicated willingness to do this. And if I can tell a little story to make it clear, back in 2016, between the old Armidale-Demarrick Council and it's being merged with Guyra Shire Council, I was on the local representative committee or something, which was comprised of a reduced number of councillors from both of those merging councils, and it was very clearly part of the merge strategy at that time, and explained to us that part of the merge strategy would be a fundamental service review. And to my mind, that really hasn't happened. There's been an assumption in all the public consultation here that that the community want to maintain all services, and I don't really think, I have to vote the way I believe is authentic and responsible, and I don't think we've actually explored that. And offering only one financial option, that is the 50% or the 58% over 3 years, doesn't really give the community the opportunity to say, well, we don't think we can afford 50%, but we could afford 40% or we could afford 30%. And in my experience of SRVs, that's always been the case, that there's been at least one other option put up, rather than, to me, the very emotive terms unmanaged decline or managed decline. I just don't think the ratepayers, to be honest, have had a fair go in relation to the whole consultation process. I don't think they've been listened to in the sense of their openness to looking at living within their means, because, you know, it's no secret that it's just going to be a very hard few years to pull through financially. The bulk of our ratepayers are not people who derive their income from capital cities. Some of us are, and but most of our ratepayers rely on what's available here within the physical geographical area of the local government area, and that's a very, very, very different economy to an urban one in Australia. And I'm not convinced by the affordability study, and I think that any risk that we have of becoming having the most expensive rates in New South Wales, it's scary. It actually puts at risk all the objectives that have been pronounced as being the objective for this rate variation of such an amount as 58%. I also note the General Manager's introduction to the delivery program, where he states that, you know, the big problem is the bulk of assets that we have to service and manage, which is, I think, 1.2 billion worth of infrastructure assets, which are under council's control and management, and it's the maintenance and those two ratios for looking after those assets that is really driving this need for more income. And there's been, you know, as an example, there's been substantial submissions which have been basically rejected at both this period of exhibition and the main period of exhibition of the SRV itself, which ended on the 30th of, was it September? I can't remember now. Last year, objecting to the delivery plan containing the rail trail, which itself is basically a big pitch at that old trick of getting government funds for an asset but no whole of life funding to support the maintenance of the asset. And it just seems to me a very disingenuous of this council to say that we need this money to look after our current asset base, when in the very same IPNR documents there's a very strong assertion that we're going to acquire more, which will bring no direct revenue to council, and which will act as a further burden on ratepayers and a further burden on council's funds. So I think there's a level of disingenuity in this. I don't wish to say it, but I have to say it because I am the community's representative and I talk with them, and that's a very strong feeling amongst some. So for that
Councillor
reason,
O'Connor, that's about it? 5 minutes?
Oh, is it? Okay. So, you know, in the absence of choices here for the community, as in different rates that would deliver different levels of service, different percentage increases, I don't support this.
Thank you. So given that we are voting on whether the upgrade...
Thank you.
Thank you. Whether we're voting on we're really just voting on the documentation, but you're across that. Councillor Witters.
It's a good point, Mr Mayor. And I'd like to just give pre-warning here. I'm not the greatest orator from the top of my head, as you can see. Don't have any notes or computer here, so if it goes on an incoherent ramble, just give us a wave and I'll try and get back on the track. I just want to note the comments from both Councillor Robinson and O'Connor. As the Mayor stated, what we're voting on, I think those comments would have been really good in the November meeting when we actually voted on this. We're a little bit further down the track, to use an emotive term. We can't stop the train now that's left the station. But I also, it's sort of listening to the comments, it jogged my memory, and I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong and proven wrong here from someone who was around at the time or someone within the operational parts of, and I might seek clarification on this, is the decisions, some of the financial decisions made in this IP&R documents and all that sort of stuff, was it based around a rate decision? I can't even remember what it was. I sat in the crowd for it in 2021. There was 3 options given, and the council at the time chose a certain option, where if they would have chosen another option, the financial decisions we're making now wouldn't have been as tough. Can I get a bit of, do you guys remember that? There was a bit of a protest out the front and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so like we're now having to make the decisions and live with the decisions of past councils. All right, if the council made a stronger, tougher decision like we have to now, based on what we're doing, then we wouldn't be in this position. Like, we need to stop using emotive terms, political terms, looking for point scoring later on down the track, and make the decisions that we have to make now so that the next council isn't in the situation that we are now, living with a burden from something that should have been done a few times ago. So even though there's a lot of emotions that should have, within this whole thing, that were stated back in November, that's not what this meeting's about. This meeting is just to endorse the community changes to the whole documents, just from adding the IP&R stuff in it. So let's get it done, let's get it over and done with, and let's keep moving forward to make this place the best place it can be.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor McMichael, I see that you have your hand up.
Thanks, Mayor. Just like to say that although I have read what people have said about not increasing the rates, I believe that the services are important to the community, and I would like to remind everybody about the issues of cost shifting from both federal and state government, and the amount of services that we are getting, as Councillor O'Connor mentioned, that we are getting without maintenance, without money to keep them going, and so to say that our assets are declining and that we need to fix them up, and this money is about keeping our region going, and that's why we're planning on it, and that's why we're budgeting on it. We can't say, oh, we'd like this. What we need is money so that we can say, this is what we're doing, and this is how much money we need, and this is how much money we're getting. Thanks.
Redwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the vein of what Councillor Witters was saying, and notwithstanding the importance of some of the views that have been expressed, the purpose of this meeting is to talk about the very small changes that were made to the IP&R documentation that was out for consultation, and not to reiterate the whole process again. So I think that unless there's some discussion about the relevance of the feedback received, I'm not sure that we've actually got much to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Well, councillors, if there are no further comments, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillors Redwood and okay, thank you. We've got thumbs up. So I declare that carried. Pardon? Oh, those against? Still declare that carried. Thank you very much, councillors. If there's no further business, I declare the meeting closed.